This is a short provocation about being a teaching artist, the curation and the invisible work of holding a space to make with others.
Aches titrating. Attica nitus. Asceta thirsting. Ascetin straight. Achiest ratting. Artist teacher.
This presentation takes the form of a short self-interview. I'll be asking myself questions as a way to think out loud, and I invite you to answer them alongside me, silently, in notes, through drawing, or whatever feels right to you. Along the way, I'll be showing you some images I'll be drawing and making on screen, so if you have paper, a pen, an iPad, or any other materials nearby, you're welcome to join in and make as a way of thinking. For me, this is incredibly important. Or please just simply watch, listen, and notice. All forms of participation are valid. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice? Hi, I'm Lou, or Louise K. Fraser. The K stands for Kinross. I'm also known under the title of Lou.Kin, Lukin. I'm a neurodiverse teaching artist and artist educator. I teach part-time at secondary school in Edinburgh, and I teach all different year groups. My practice moves between making, teaching, access, facilitation, and research. I work across lots of different disciplines, including drawing, printmaking, sculpture, collaborative projects, and material-led workshops, often with schools, galleries, communities, and interdisciplinary partners. This is what makes my practice quite unusual, in that I am both in school and also in gallery education, community education, and also still practicing myself. A lot of my work is about creating conditions where people can begin making and thinking and sharing different viewpoints and different thoughts and feelings. I'm interested in how materials can be prompts, that pace and care and access can open up different ways of learning, communicating for people. The age range that I work with is from lower primary up until amazing older adults starting their practice in their 90s, and that's what I find joyous about the work I do. I'd like to include a visual description of myself, as I work a lot with visually impaired audiences, and I always think it's an exciting way to be inclusive to start with that. I am a Scottish white woman. I am in my 40s, and I have a shoulder length bobbed haircut just now with a fringe. Some lovely greys coming through, which I'm very proud of. I'm speaking to you from my studio, surrounded by my materials on the third floor, with a view out over the hills. What do you mean by teaching artist? For me, a teaching artist, or artist teacher, or artist educator is someone whose practice moves between making, thinking, facilitating, and learning with others. Co-production, co-creation, producing with. It's not separate from being, inverted commas, the artist. It's interlaced into how we think, make, and it's also hugely important in the way that we create work for ourselves, with others, embedded into our mind. It makes us unique in that we have a completely different consideration of audiences. Our work is interlaced with interaction with people. What is the work that people don't always see as a teaching artist? I kind of sometimes bring up the idea of invisible labour. So you are preparing a room, you're creating an atmosphere, you're choosing materials, you're holding an invisible structure to allow people to feel safe to take risks and chances. You're reading energy, you're making the space accessible with materials, with questions, with support, with prompts. You're creating permission to be a creative entity that sometimes has not happened in those people's lives before. Why do you want the word curation to be part of the description of a teaching artist practice. A teaching artist is already a curator, but not first of objects, but of access, permission, pace, attention, risk, and participation. I'm interested in curation as a shaping of conditions, the conditions that allow people to encounter art, materials, making, risk taking, to respond to prompts and ideas, and make meaning with others. Research into gallery education supports this wider view of artist educators as collaborators, researchers, and co learners, not just people delivering activities. The wider educational turn in contemporary art also shows that a workshop, school, and shared learning format become part of a curatorial practice. The labour of artists, teachers, educators is still less recognised and valued than a traditional curator, and I think that is something that we need to start adjusting. So, a provocation for those listening. What is one thing you do before a workshop, a talk, a class, a group session that makes participation, creation, thinking possible, that might not be noticed? Why does this reframing of being a teaching artist matter? For me, not everybody who is a teacher and an artist make and look in this way, but for a lot of us, we do. They are not things which just kind of travel around the edges of our practice. The workshops, the engagement, the discussions, the talks, that's how I research. That's how I bring in, I test out, I push materials to their limit. And also, I deeply understand people. If you want somebody who is able to notice micro moments, that is a teaching artist. That's any teacher, any educator. We notice patterns, we make meaning with that. We are able to spin on a moment with reflection, with creation, with wonder at what people have shown us. The workshop is not only a delivery space, it is a thinking space, a site of inquiry, a studio, a place where work is made by us, with others, and by others. Why do you think the work of a teaching artist is undervalued? I think it's historical. Many institutions still validate artists through exhibitions and objects, and through only presenting final outcome. I'd be fascinated to do an exhibition where the chain of thought of one teacher to the next teacher to the next teacher through generations is seen. I'm interested in what happens when we stop treating this work as secondary and we treat it as the practice of the artist. I would say the meaning and the naming of this as curation might help us within a wider society understand the value of this role and this job, understand that it is not for everybody. It is a very emotionally labor intensive physical thing to do, and that it is incredibly skilled. It's also really interesting because it is predominantly a space dominated by women. And I feel that that also plays into some of the historical issues within the context. And maybe this word curation is something that gives it a weightiness for now, and to help others understand the worth of what we do. I want the word curation not just for objects, exhibitions, and institutions, but for us as teaching artists. for the conditions we create for people and ourselves to meet, make, think, and respond. Alongside this talk, I am making 100 small provocation boxes based on the talk that I've done. It's a starting point that you can take if you would like to use in your own time and in your own way, and to ask yourself, am I also a curator and holder of space?